So Deborah asked a
Sorry,
question.
hold
That's
on.
okay. Was asking a question. If I can answer it the same while you're doing that is, so the happened to me too. The employee retention credit. The reason they're looking at the receipts is it's about one of the things to qualify had to do with your gross revenues, whether a reduction in revenues, so your money in being your receipts. If you didn't, you only got the credits if you had to qualify for that was a big part of it, is why they'd be looking at the receipts as well.
Yes, and when we're doing our reviews, we're not asking for bank statements. We are letting our clients know that if they do get audited, they will not only have to provide a lot of detail, they will have to provide bank statements, most likely, if they qualified under the revenue reduction and they get audited.
If you have if you have a good company that's doing quality accounting, bookkeeping and accounting for you, providing that information should not be difficult at this time, especially if you've already filed your tax returns, everything else. The only time it will get difficult is when you don't want to provide that information because it's not going to be beneficial to you.
Right. And there was just so much fraud with ERC.
Yeah.
And we've worked with a lot of people who didn't know better, or
100% agree.
the person was so sure that they qualified that they ran with it. And
There have been a lot of businesses. Look, this whole thing all the way around has been devastating, and a lot of businesses died. There are plenty that maybe squeaked through kind of situation, right? And they needed any money they could get ethically and honestly to do it. So when you're being called and called and called and saying, no, you do qualify for this. Are you sure I do? No, you absolutely do. We can definitely get you money, and you've got to pay payroll and do these different things. Those are the people that have been harmed the most by the
yes.
fraud, and I feel horrible for those people.
And those are the people this voluntary disclosure program is for. So I know I spent a lot of time talking about the voluntary disclosure program because it is, in my opinion, the best route for these businesses that worked with a mill to return most of the money and hopefully returning the money doesn't damage their business to where they now have to close instead of having to close before they got the money. But and it is a really good way to help the IRS and understand when I say things like this. I'm not a fan of turning people in, but when you file the voluntary disclosure program, you do turn in the people who created this mess for that business. And
I hear what you're saying, and I'm going to take a strong stance on this one. It will be very, very obvious to the IRS the people that did it, the people you're saying turn in that did it maliciously, and you know what? Good riddance. I
and the
got no problem
IRS,
with that.
like 90% of the bad actors, the IRS already knows who they are. So
Yep.
when now the new people that are applying for this new voluntary disclosure program, chances are really good the IRS already knows who you're turning in. And if you worked with a reputable company, definitely go to them and say, you know what, I really don't think we qualified. Can you take a look at things again? And like, my company offers the guarantee that if we applied for ERC funds that you were not eligible for and you paid us the fee, we reimburse you the fee. And it did
Honest,
happen
ethical
early on.
business.
We had a misunderstanding of one of the qualifications, and I had to refund like 5 or 6 businesses for ERC and undo their ERC. And in a couple of the instances, they had already paid to have their taxes amended. I refunded them that money too. So not doing these ERC claims for a couple businesses cost us money, but it was an honest mistake. We really had for a short period of time, there was confusion on some of the ways that people qualified.
Mhm.
And we misunderstood one of the qualifications, but thankfully it only affected a very small amount of our clients, but we made them whole. Technically, they would have qualified for this voluntary disclosure program. They would have turned us in, and then we would be investigated by the IRS. So if you feel like the place that you worked with was reputable, go talk to them first before you do the voluntary disclosure program.
Good point. Good point. This, this makes me think again, as doing all the accounting stuff primarily myself. This is why when people will, like, you always have a client here or there that wants to be shady and have you stretch the boundaries of things with the accounting. The thing that most people don't recognize is, look, if I try to cook your books and something happens, they're not only going to audit your books, they're going to go and look at every other one of my clients' books I've ever touched ever again. And so when we stand our ground and other accountants are like, no, look, you can't do that. We're not just trying to be mean to you. We're trying to protect you. And when I tell you what, we have that same conversation with others to also protect you that way.
Absolutely. And, it just totally a little bit off topic, but when one accountant's payroll client has a state unemployment audit, that accountant is going to see a lot of unemployment audits for their other clients. Even if the audit turned out
Death by
good.
1,000 audits.
Well,
Ouch.
I had a client who, unbeknownst to me, had hired a part-time receptionist as a 1099. And then when their audit got done, because I assisted with it, guess who got audited next? That audit was like, my audit was 5 minutes though, and then we spent the other 45 minutes just chit-chatting about all the stupid thing other people do.
Well, so there's the flip though. Like, here's the cool side of when you really care about what you do and if you're good at it, is if you do go through an audit and they look at it and they're like, wow, your stuff's legit. Guess what? The next time they see your stuff, they're like, I don't have to worry about them.
Yep, absolutely.
So, Shannon, thank you for this information today. If people have additional questions, I know you'd already put your information up. They can continue to ask questions, of course, in the chat and YouTube video, of course, or even reach out to your company. So, thanks for all this info.
Yep, absolutely. And I'm later today, I will make sure that all of our contact information gets added to the description of this video so that, but it's on our main channel page too, just so that if anybody needs to reach out, they definitely can.